Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Maybe you are listening to this on the bus. Maybe you are cooking dinner. Or maybe you are relaxing in bed. Whatever you are doing, I am glad you are here with me. Today, we are starting something very big, something special. For a long time, you have asked me to talk about the United States of America. You see this country in movies. You hear about it in the news. You listen to music from American artists. But do you really know the USA? Do you know how the government works? Do you know the difference between New York and California? Do you know what Americans eat for breakfast? Do you know why they celebrate Thanksgiving? In this special episode, we are going to learn everything. This is a deep dive. Because this is a long episode, I want you to relax. I will speak slowly. I will speak clearly. If I use a difficult word, I will stop and explain it. This is the best way to train your ears. So, are you ready? Let's begin our journey to the United States of America. Let's start with the absolute basics. What is the name of the country? The official name is the United States of America. Most people do not say the full name. It is too long. In conversation, we usually say the US, the USA, or simply America. Citizenship note: people who live in the USA are called Americans. Some people argue that America is the name of two continents, North America and South America, so we shouldn't call U.S. citizens Americans, but in the English language, this is the standard word. If you are from the USA, you are an American. Where is it? The USA is located in North America. It has two neighbors. To the north, up on the map, the neighbor is Canada. To the south, down on the map, the neighbor is Mexico. The country is surrounded by water on two sides. On the east coast, the right side of the map, there is the Atlantic Ocean. If you sail across the Atlantic, you reach Europe. On the west coast, the left side of the map, there is the Pacific Ocean. If you sail across the Pacific, you reach Asia. America is huge. It is gigantic. It is the fourth largest country in the world by land area. Only Russia, Canada, and China are bigger. Because it is so big, you cannot easily drive across it. If you want to drive from New York City on the East Coast to Los Angeles on the West Coast, it will take you about 40 to 50 hours of pure driving. That is 4 or 5 days of driving. There are more than 335 million people in the USA. It is the third most populated country in the world. China is number 1, India is number 2, and the USA is number 3. But here is an interesting fact. Even though the USA has many people, it has a lot of empty space. In cities like New York, it is very crowded. But if you drive through states like Montana or Wyoming, you can drive for hours and not see a single person. What is the capital of the USA? Many people think it is New York City. It is not New York City. The capital is Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is where the president lives. It is where the government works. It is a different city from Washington State. Washington, D.C. is a city on the East Coast. Washington State is a region on the West Coast near Canada. Please remember this difference. Now, let's look at the map more closely. The United States is a federal republic. This means it is a union of smaller areas. These areas are called states. There are 50 states. You might know the famous song, "The Star-Spangled Banner." That is the national anthem. But let's talk about the flag. The American flag is very famous. It has red, white and blue colors. It has 13 stripes, red and white lines. These represent the original 13 colonies that started the country. It has a blue box with white stars. How many stars? There are 50 stars. Each star represents one state. Most of the states are connected together. We call this the continental U.S., or the lower 48. But there are two states that are far away. Alaska. This is way up north next to Canada. It is huge and very cold. It is famous for snow, bears, and mountains. Hawaii is a group of islands in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It is tropical, warm, and famous for surfing. Each state is a little bit like a small country. Each state has its own governor. Each state has its own police. Each state has its own laws. For example, in some states you can drive a car at age 16. In other states the rules might be different. In some states you pay less tax. In others you pay more tax. This is why the USA can be confusing. New York is very different from Texas. The rules are different, and the culture is different. To understand American culture, you must understand the regions. We usually divide the map into 4 big parts. Imagine you are in a car with me. We are going to drive through all 4 regions. We start our journey in the Northeast. This is the top right corner of the map. New York, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. This is the oldest part of the modern USA. This is where the first cities were built. It has 4 distinct seasons. Winter is very cold with lots of snow. Summer is hot and humid. Autumn, or fall, is beautiful because the leaves on the trees turn orange and red. People here are always in a rush. They walk fast, they talk fast. This is the center of business and education. If you like history, museums, and cold winters, you will love the Northeast. Now, let's drive down the coast to the south. This is the bottom right part of the map. States here include Texas, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Louisiana. It is hot, very hot. Summers are long, winters are mild, not much snow. The South is famous for hospitality. People in the South are known for being very polite. They say sir and ma'am. They smile at strangers. This is called Southern hospitality. The food here is heavy and delicious. Fried chicken, barbecue, and sweet tea. Texas is the biggest state in this region. Texas are very proud. They often say, everything is bigger in Texas. Now, let's try to the middle of the country. This is the Midwest. States here include Illinois, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin. It is very flat. There are not many mountains. It is full of farms. This region is often called the breadbasket of America because they grow so much corn and wheat. People in the Midwest are known for being down to earth. The Midwest has crazy weather. The winters are freezing cold, sometimes colder than the North Pole. And they also have tornadoes in the spring. Finally, we keep driving until we hit the Pacific Ocean. We are in the West. States here include California, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, Colorado. This is the most beautiful region for nature. You have the Rocky Mountains, huge mountains. You have deserts, like in Las Vegas, and you also have the ocean beaches. The West is generally more relaxed. It is chill. This is the home of the technology industry, Silicon Valley, and the movie industry, Hollywood. It is very expensive to live here, especially in California. Now, we are going to travel back in time. Many history books start in 1492 with Christopher Columbus, but that is not the beginning of the story. Thousands of years before people from Europe arrived, people already lived here. We call these people Native Americans or indigenous peoples. They had their own languages, religions, and governments. When Europeans arrived, they brought diseases and war. Sadly, millions of Native Americans died or were forced to leave their land. This is a very sad and dark part of American history, but it is important to remember. In the 1600s and 1700s, people from Europe began to cross the Atlantic Ocean. They came from Spain, France, and the Netherlands. But the most powerful group came from Great Britain, England. They built towns on the East Coast, near the Atlantic Ocean. They created 13 colonies. Life in the colonies was hard, but people had more freedom than they did in Europe. However, there was a problem. The King of England, King George III, wanted money. He had fought many wars and he needed cash. So he decided to tax the Americans. The Americans were furious. They said, "We do not have anyone in the British government to speak for us. This is not fair." Their famous slogan was, "No taxation without representation." This anger grew and grew. One night, in the city of Boston, a group of Americans snuck onto a British ship. They took hundreds of boxes of tea and threw them into the ocean. This event is called the Boston Tea Party. They were not partying, they were protesting. The king was angry. He sent soldiers to America. The Americans decided they did not want to be British anymore. They wanted to be their own country. On July 4th, 1776, leaders gathered in Philadelphia. They signed a very famous paper called the Declaration of Independence. This document said, all men are created equal. It said that everyone has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is why Americans celebrate on July 4th. It is their birthday. But signing a paper is easy, fighting a war is hard. This started the Revolutionary War. It looked impossible. The British Army was the strongest in the world. They had red uniforms, money, and shits. The Americans were ragged. They had no shoes, no money, and little gunpowder. But the Americans had a great leader. His name was George Washington. He was a general, he was smart, tall, and very quiet. He led the American army through freezing winters and terrible battles. Against all odds, America won. In 1783, the British gave up. The United States became a real country. George Washington became the first president. George Washington was so popular, he could have been a king, but he said no. He served for 8 years, and then he went home. He wanted the country to be a democracy, not a kingdom. Now, we jump forward to the mid-1800s. The country was growing. People were moving west. But there was a terrible problem dividing the country. That problem was slavery. In the northern states, like New York, slavery was illegal. People worked in factories. In the southern states, like Georgia and Texas, slavery was legal. The economy depended on large farms called plantations. They forced enslaved people from Africa to pick cotton. The North said, slavery is wrong. We should stop it. The South said, you cannot tell us what to do. If you try to stop slavery, we will leave the USA and start our own country. In 1860, a man named Abraham Lincoln was elected president. He was very tall and wore a tall black hat. He believed the country must stay together. When he became president, the southern states decided to leave. They formed a new country called the Confederacy. This started the Civil War, 1861 to 1865. This was the deadliest war in American history. Brother fought against brother. The war lasted for 4 years. Finally, the North won. Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, which helped end slavery. The country was saved. It stayed as one united states. But sadly, just a few days after the war ended, Abraham Lincoln was shot and killed. He was the first president to be assassinated. Why is this important today? You will still see statues of Abraham Lincoln everywhere. He is considered one of the greatest heroes because he kept the country together and ended slavery.
After the sad days of the Civil War, the USA changed fast. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, the Industrial Revolution happened. Americans started building huge factories. They built railroads that connected the East to the West. Because there were so many jobs in factories, people from all over the world started moving to America. Millions of people came from Italy, Ireland, Poland, Germany, and China. They arrived in New York City by boat. They saw the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty holds a torch, a light. It was a symbol of welcome. This is when America became a melting pot. We learned this word in part 1, remember? It means many cultures mixing together. By the 1900s, the USA was becoming a rich and powerful country, but it stayed out of world politics until the World Wars. But that is a story for the next section. So now the USA is a free country. It is united, it has factories. But how does the government actually work? What is the difference between a Democrat and a Republican? And how did America become the leader of the world economy? Now we will talk about modern history, government and politics. I will explain the government so simply that even a child can understand it. We're going to answer 2 big questions. How did the USA become a superpower? How does the American government actually work? I promise I will make this easy to understand. If you have ever been confused by American politics on the news, this episode is exactly what you need. Let's get started. Let's look at the 1900s. This is the modern era. 2 major events happened that changed the world: World War I and World War II. At first, the USA did not want to fight. They wanted to stay home. This idea is called isolationism. But in World War II, after Japan attacked a U.S. Navy base called Pearl Harbor, the USA joined the fight. The USA joined with Great Britain and Russia, the Soviet Union. Together, they were the Allies. They fought against Nazi Germany and Japan. The Allies won the war in 1945. After the war, most of Europe was destroyed. Buildings were broken, economies were ruined, but the USA was not destroyed. Its factories were running fast, its economy was strong. This is when the USA became a superpower. But soon, there was a new problem. The USA, which liked capitalism, business, and the Soviet Union, which liked communism, became enemies. They did not fight with guns. They fought with spies, technology, and fear. This was called the Cold War. It was a scary time, but it also led to amazing technology. The 2 countries raced to see who could go to space first. In 1969, the USA won the space race when Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. Finally, in 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed. The Cold War ended. Now, let's talk about the government. To understand the U.S. government, you must know about one document. It is called the Constitution. The Constitution is the rule book for the country. It was written in 1787. It is the highest law. Even the president must obey the Constitution. The Bill of Rights. The most famous part of the Constitution is the beginning. It lists the freedoms of the people. Freedom of speech. You can say what you want. Freedom of religion. You can pray how you want. Freedom of press. Newspapers can write the truth. Americans love the Constitution. They treat it with great respect. This is the most important part of today's lesson. The writers of the Constitution were afraid of kings. They did not want one person to have all the power. So they split the power into 3 parts. Imagine a chair with 3 legs. If you cut off one leg, the chair falls. All 3 legs must work together. This is called checks and balances. Here are the 3 branches: the legislative branch, Congress; the executive branch, the president; and the judicial branch, the Supreme Court. So Congress makes the law, the president enforces the law, the court checks the law. It is a system designed to share power. Everyone knows the American president. They're one of the most famous people on earth. But there are strict rules for this job. A person can only be president for 2 terms, 8 years total. After that, they must leave. This ensures we get new leaders. To be president, you must be born in the USA and be at least 35 years old. The president lives and works in the White House in Washington, D.C. It's a beautiful building, but it's also an office. The president works very hard there. In the USA, there are 2 main teams in politics. These are called political parties. Almost all politicians belong to one of these 2 teams. The Republican Party and the Democratic Party. We know the USA is a superpower, but how does it influence the world today? The USA has the strongest military in history. It has bases in many countries like Japan, Germany, and South Korea. The US dollar is the world reserve currency. This means most countries use dollars for international trade, like buying oil. Now, we are going to explore the lifestyle of the American people. We will talk about the family, the schools, the offices, and the hospital. Something might surprise you. Some things might be very different from your country. To understand the people, you must understand their core belief. It is called the American Dream. What is it? The American Dream is the idea that anyone, no matter where they were born or how poor they are, can become successful if they work hard. It is the belief in opportunity. Americans value independence. They like to make their own choices. They do not like people telling them what to do. This is why they move out of their parents' house very young. This is why they love cars, because a car gives you freedom to go anywhere. Is the American dream real? For many people, yes, but for others, it is becoming harder to achieve because things are getting expensive. But the idea is still the heart of the country. Let's talk about the family. In many parts of the world, 3 generations live in one house: grandparents, parents, and children. In the USA, this is rare. Most families are nuclear families. This is a big culture shock for many students. In the USA, when a child turns 18 years old, they are considered an adult. Many 18-year-olds leave their parents' house immediately. They go to college or get an apartment with friends. If a 30-year-old man lives with his parents, people might think it is strange. What happens when parents get old? In many cultures, the children take care of the old parents at home. In the USA, many elderly people move to retirement homes or nursing homes. These are communities just for old people. This is not because the children do not love their parents. It is because everyone values independence. The parents want to be independent, and the children work very hard. Now, let's go to school. If you watch American movies, you have seen the yellow school buses. Education in the USA is divided into levels: elementary school, ages 5 to 10, middle school, ages 11 to 13, high school, ages 14 to 18. Public school is free for everyone. It is paid for by taxes. High school is a very big deal in American culture. It is not just about studying. It is about social life. After high school, students go to higher education. In English, Americans use the words college and university to mean the same thing. They usually say, "I'm going to college." But here is the bad news. College in the USA is extremely expensive. Tuition can cost $20,000, $40,000, or even $60,000 per year. Most families cannot afford this, so students take student loans. They borrow money from the government or banks. Many Americans spend years paying back this money after they graduate. When students go to college, they usually live on campus in buildings called dormitories or dorms. They share a small room with a stranger, a roommate. This is a rite of passage for American youth. After college, you get a job. What is the work culture like? Americans work fast. They value efficiency. In meetings, they usually get straight to the point. They do not spend 30 minutes drinking tea and chatting. They want to solve the problem and finish. However, the office is often casual. You usually call your boss by their first name. Even though they work fast, Americans love small talk. We must talk about one serious topic: healthcare. If you visit the USA, you need to know this. The USA has some of the best doctors and hospitals in the world. The technology is amazing. But it is not free. In fact, it is the most expensive in the world. There is no universal health care like in the UK or Canada. Instead, Americans have health insurance. Usually, your job pays for your insurance. But if you do not have a job, or if your insurance is bad, getting sick can be a financial disaster. Important tip for travelers: if you travel to the USA, you must buy travel insurance.
If you break your leg and go to the hospital without insurance, the bill could be $5,000 or $10,000. An ambulance ride alone can cost $1,000. So please, be safe and get insurance.
We have learned about history. We have learned about the government. We have learned about work. Now it is time to relax. Today, we are going to talk about the things that make life in America fun. But first, I have a question for you. When I say American food, what do you think of? Do you think of McDonald's? Well, you are partly right. But there is so much more. Let's go eat. Yes, Americans love hamburgers, hot dogs, and pizza. But the food culture is actually very diverse. Because people from all over the world live here, you can find amazing food in every city. In many countries, a meal is small. In the USA, one plate of pasta might be enough for 2 or 3 people. It is very common to not finish your food. You can ask the waiter for a to-go box or a doggy bag. You take the leftovers home and eat them tomorrow. This is very normal. Waiters in America are paid a very low salary. They survive on tips. If your bill is $100, you should leave an extra $15 to $20 for the waiter. If you do not leave a tip, the waiter actually loses money. It is considered very rude, so please remember to tip. Now, let's go to Los Angeles, California. Let's look at the famous white sign on the hill, Hollywood. Hollywood is the movie capital of the world. American movies are a huge export. People in Brazil, Japan, and Germany all watch Marvel movies or Disney cartoons. This gives the USA a lot of cultural influence. TV shows are also huge. Sitcoms, funny shows like Friends, and dramas like Breaking Bad are watched globally. Watching these shows is actually one of the best ways to learn English slang. Americans are obsessed with sports, but they don't play the same sports as the rest of the world. Soccer, which they call soccer, not football, is growing, but it is not the #1 sport. Here's a surprise. Americans also love watching university students play sports. College football stadiums can hold 100,000 people. The fans are often louder and crazier than at professional games. Okay, now we are going to act like tourists. We are going to visit the giant cities made of concrete. We are going to visit the quiet forests and the red deserts. And we are going to talk about the crazy weather, from snowstorms to hurricanes. The USA has hundreds of cities, but there are a few that everyone knows. Let's visit the big 2: New York City, the Big Apple, and Los Angeles, LA. People say New York is the city that never sleeps. You can get a pizza at 4 a.m., bright lights and screens everywhere, a giant green park in the middle of the city. In New York, you walk or take the subway train. In LA, you must drive a car. The traffic is legendary and terrible. While the cities are amazing, many people say the best part of the USA is the nature. The government protects the most beautiful land. These areas are called national parks. There are 63 national parks. The 2 most famous ones are the Grand Canyon and Yellowstone National Park. Americans love road trips. They pack their car with snacks, play loud music, and drive for days to see these parks. There is a famous road called Route 66 that goes from Chicago to Los Angeles. It is a symbol of freedom. We have talked about the good things, nature, wealth, and freedom, and the bad things, high costs, disasters, politics. So the final question is the USA still a good place? Every year, millions of people try to move there. They come for education. The universities are excellent. Innovation. If you want to work in tech or science, it is the best place. Freedom. The ability to speak and pray freely is very attractive. The USA calls itself a work in progress. It means the country is not perfect. It is still being built. It is still trying to be better. And that is why people love it. It is a place where you can write your own story. Friends, we have reached the end of our journey.
I hope this series helped you understand the United States better. Learning a language is not just about grammar and words. It's about understanding the people who speak that language. It's about understanding their history, their jokes, and their fears. Now, when you watch an American movie or read the news, you will understand the context. You will know why they celebrate July 4th. You will know why they tip the waiter. You will know what the Midwest is. Your final homework. I want you to leave a comment below. Tell me, if you could take a one-week vacation to the USA, what is the one thing you would do? Would you go to Disney World? Would you eat a New York pizza? Would you walk on the Golden Gate Bridge? I want to read your dreams in the comments. Thank you for studying with me. You are doing a great job. Keep listening, keep practicing, and never stop learning.